Hello, a very good morning. Russian forces have entered Ukraine's second city of Kharkiv. The news was confirmed in the last hour by the country's interior ministry, which says there's fighting in the streets. Kyiv is under curfew. The streets there are empty apart from the Ukrainian army and militia fighters who vowed to defend their country against the Russian army gathering on the outskirts. Violent explosions have rocked many of Ukraine's cities, but there are no Russian tanks on the streets of the capital. So let's take a look at some of the latest developments then this morning. And Ukraine's Interior Ministry has confirmed that Russian troops have entered Kharkiv, Ukraine's second largest city. A curfew has been announced for Kyiv and is set to last through until Monday morning. Russian forces have targeted oil and gas installations in different parts of the country, causing huge explosions. Ukraine's health ministry says 198 people have been killed, including 3 children, with more than 1,000 others injured. Our international affairs editor, Dominic Waghorn, has the latest developments.
In Kiev, they waited for Russia's assault to come. A long, tense night haunted by sirens. There was fighting here over a children's hospital. There are reports that 1 child was killed. Ukrainians spent the night in shelters, pulling together to keep spirits up.
It's really good atmosphere because it's really very, very warm people, so close to each other because we help each other.
Above ground, an oil terminal outside the capital was hit, raising fears of an environmental disaster. And this in Kharkiv, a massive explosion as a gas pipeline is struck. Across the country, Ukrainians cope with the reality of coming under fire. In the southern town of Mariupol, residents described the aftermath of shelling.
I couldn't even see it first. It was all up in smoke, dust, smoke. It was nuts. We ran around here as it was, on top of broken glass. We didn't care. Here's Mum's blood.
Russia's rockets and bombs aren't precise. They land where they fall. So they're living underground now, as much as they can. Kiev is encircled but mobilized, readying its defenses, preparing to resist one of the world's most advanced militaries in the streets of their beautiful capital. Dominic Waghorn, Sky News, Moscow.
And Dominic joins me now live from Moscow. So Dominic, all eyes on the Russian forces continuing their attacks in Ukraine. But what's the reaction been there today in Moscow?
Well, to give you an idea of where we are at the moment, Anna, we're on a bridge that crosses over towards the Kremlin and Red Square. And 7 years ago to this day, Boris Nemtsov, the Russian politician, an outspoken critic of Vladimir Putin, was assassinated here as he crossed the bridge after dinner with his girlfriend, shot in the back 4 times and killed outright. And people have coming here to lay flowers. 5 Chechens were charged and convicted of his killing. One of them withdrew his confession, saying it was extracted under torture. And the big question is who was paying them. It was seen as a contract hit, but it's never been established who paid for the killing and what the motive was. And the Russian government has refused to conduct a full investigation into the killing of Nemtsov. And on the night when he crossed, although there are cameras on this bridge that work at all times, they weren't on that night. So a lot of questions around that. And the direct connection with Ukraine is that Nemtsov was urging people to attend a march against Russian military involvement in fighting in eastern Ukraine, but also had told friends that a week or so before the killing, he had told friends he was working on a report that directly implicated the Russian military directly in the fighting in East Ukraine. Of course, the Russians at the time saying that they weren't directly involved, just mercenaries, and they were supporting the separatists there. So there were reasons for the Kremlin to want him out of the way, and his friends have said either Vladimir Putin or the Chechen leader may have been responsible. But it's a mystery still. But his death, the tragedy of his death, is being lamented by friends and supporters today. A few of them, as you can see, coming out now to lay flowers on the site where he was assassinated. and press coming out to film that as well. And in the background, you may or may not be able to see there are a lot of police vans, a lot of police activity, because this is a potential point of protest. The hope, I think, for his supporters was to have some kind of demonstration at 1 o'clock today. That's been frustrated by authorities. So a few, though, defying that and coming out this morning to lay flowers. But we have seen protests here. Going back to your original question, we've seen protests every night. The first night of the Russian action, we saw a lot of protests in more than 50 cities here. And since then, on that night and the nights that followed, we think around 2,000 people have been detained. And these protests continue. There may well be more of them through the day. And it has to be said that because the Russian government has been extremely repressive of any dissent and protest, it's an extremely brave person that comes out to protest and demonstrate. So that sort of sense of, well, 2,000 people detained gives you a sense, I think, of the number of people, the strength of feeling amongst those who protest and are opposed to this action. There are a lot more, I think, who felt they might want to come out but didn't want to dare do so. But I think more protests are expected today. I think most Russians are getting their information from the state media, which is still pushing out the line that this is a limited action in eastern Ukraine, and therefore I think that the sort of overwhelming tide of public sentiment has not yet turned against this conflict. But when those sanctions start hitting and affecting the economy, then things might start to change.
And meanwhile, Dominic, in Ukraine itself, the authorities are saying that Russian troops have entered Ukraine's second largest city, Kharkiv. So just how significant is that?